Alright, everybody. Sorry, I need to take a little break. So welcome back to part 3. So what I was talking about last time was, I was talking about how in Israel, it's true that there is racism and stuff, of course, but it's not written into the law of the land. Okay? Now, we're really getting far afield here from the original topic, which is fine, because it's the main topic of these videos is not necessarily the only subject that will be discussed. It may even not even be the most discussed part of it, but it anchors the rest of the subjects. That's sort of how I try to generally make it go. I may not talk about the title of the video, the whole thing, but at the end, it all comes together. So, so you have so like I was saying about him being a communist and how, like, I mean, just that alone, communism should be seen as not a good thing. Well, so, okay. So we see, that he is a communist. Fine. I was telling you before about the kibbutz, about system, because we were talking about communism. And then from there we got into the discussion about like in Israel, about racism, and how, of course, there is racism in Israel, but it's not written into the law. Because I made a comment about the kibbutz people, that they think like, oh yeah, these fucking Arabs, give them the dirty work. So yes, but then I talk all the time about how there's Arabs who love Israel and they're proud to be Arab Israelis. So how do I reconcile that? So it's the thing is, Israel is a country of 10 million people. Okay, about 8 million of them are Jews, and in a country of 10 million people, you're gonna have so many different types of people and so many different ways of looking at things and personalities. Just like here in America, we don't have laws written that say, if you're Mexican, you can't go to school with white children, or you can't go to school with non-Mexicans. Like, yeah, we don't have that. But it is true that we have plenty of people whose thought is, oh yeah, let's give the dirty work to the Mexicans, because fuck it, we don't want to do it. Like, that we have people like that, but at the same time, it's not part of our law. So I'm saying it's the same sort of thing in Israel. Yeah, there are people that their first thought is, oh yeah, clean the toilets, give that to the Arabs. We're not gonna do that shit. That's that's what they're suited for, the fucking Arabs. That's their job. But at the same time, there are laws in Israel saying, if you're an Arab, you by law, you're only going to get paid half as much as a Jew. Or if you're an Arab, you can't live in this neighborhood, because only Jews can live in this neighborhood, that sort of a thing. Now you want to get into the whole issue with the settlements and the settlers in the West Bank. That's the whole other kettle of stinky, rotten fish that I don't. We'll delve into that at another time. But okay. So then the second thing about him is, I keep getting these messages like, I don't care. People give these messages like, hey, do you want to join our fan page because you once liked something with this picture, so now you want to like all our shit? No, not at all. In fact, now I'm disappointed that I now I regret liking that first thing, because now I have to talk to you. And I have to get all these freaking messages. And it's all bullshit. It's all ads. It's all commercials. None of it's like real, like genuine. the second thing I want to bring up is how that he talked about Israel basically is just how Israel and America are the same thing. Israel is really just a colony of America. Okay, I hear this all the time, and here's why that's not true. First of all, okay, well, how would we prove that it's not true? What would be the criteria? Well, then the criteria would have to be if you examine the way Israel, the government, and the culture, not even the culture really, but particularly the government, let's keep it simple. Okay, the political system, the way their political system works, okay, versus the way our political system in the United States works, okay? Now, if it was true that Israel was part of America, even if you didn't want to call it a colony of America, but let's say you wanted to call it a protectorate, like Puerto Rico is, for example, right? Puerto Rico is a protectorate of America. It's very strange. It's like, it's its own country, but it's sort of also part of our country, but not. It's very weird. It's one of those very bizarre middle ground gray areas. Okay, but the thing with that is that Israel is not that for America because first of all, the United States is, even geographically and by population size, I don't even know how many times, but I mean, I'm almost tempted to Google it, just for the hell of it. But I don't know. How much more would it be? Yeah, I'm not good with percentages and 10 times, 20 times bigger, but it's significantly bigger, okay? The population of Israel versus the population of America, is far larger. And the geography, obviously, is far larger. Also, the United States is far richer than Israel. The United States is buka rich. I mean, United States is stupid. Take off my pants, slap me, and call me Sally. Like, kind of rich. I mean, America. Oh, this is a perfect way to put it. America has fuck you money. America has money that could just give you fuck you, buddy. Well, why are you doing it? Because we're American, we're rich, and we can, bitch. Like, Israel doesn't really have fuck you money. All of Israel's money has to go into defense, has to go into education. And everybody, each segment of society just barely kind of like jostles for political power. They're constantly jostling for political power, not like different factions of politics and stuff, and different demographics in Israel. Not so much because they want domination and power, and although that is part of it, obviously, but to a certain extent, it's a survival thing. Each section is like, okay, we need to be a step of everyone else, or we're gonna get fucked. Like the Jews are like, okay, we gotta make sure that we are demographically more than the Arabs, because if they become equal to us or demographically larger, they could basically vote us out of existence and we'll be fucked. The Arabs are like, shit, we're way behind the Jews. They fucking run everything. We gotta make up for that. Like, because if we don't, we're gonna be on the bottom. So that's sort of the way it is. It's not so much a quest for I want power, although they're obviously, of course, it's human. So that the human nature, of course, that is part of it. But a large extent of it is that sort of like, I gotta be number one or I'm gonna be number zero. Or I gotta be number one or I'm gonna be completely last. Like, I gotta be A plus or I'm gonna be less than negative Z. You know what I mean? And That's kind of a lot of the way a lot of the Middle East works, actually. A lot of the Middle East is sort of that sort of survivalist, tribalist, always fighting. Sort of we gotta like make sure that our shit doesn't get fucked with. Sort of mentality. And within the Middle East, also people think, oh, it's Arabs. It's a bunch of Muslim Arabs. That's all it is. Or if you're from England, bunch of Muzzies. Oh, it's all a bunch of bloody Muzzies. But actually, the Middle East is actually quite diverse. There are Arabs, which make up, I would probably say, a majority are Arab Muslims, yes. But there are Arabs. There are the native people of North Africa who now have become Islamicized and Arabized, but historically and ethnically and tribally, they're actually called Berber people. The native people of North Africa are called Berbers. So there's Arabs, there's Berbers, there's Kurds, there's Persians, or we now call them Iranians. Something that people, a lot of people that don't know a lot about the Middle East, seem to not realize. Iranians are not Arabs. People think, oh well, it's all they speak they're Muslims and they speak the language with all the squiggly lines. So. And a lot of it's they're Arabs. No, they're not. Iranians or Persians. Iranians are ethnic really. There's no such thing as Iranian. Iranian is a nationality. They're Persians ethnically. They're Persian people. They're not Arab at all. What happened was they adopted the Arabic script to Farsi, to their language, kind of like how the English script is also the Spanish script. I mean, Spanish has A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and it's the same thing. It doesn't have squiggles. It doesn't have like characters like Japanese or Chinese does. Does have like the special characters like that. No, it has it's the same thing as E, B, C, A, B, C, D, the same letters, or like I think it's called the Cyrillic script, which is like Russian, for example, which kind of looks like a little bit like English, but then it's like not quite. It's like you're like, oh, wait, what is this? When you're an English speaker and you look at Russian, so in that sense, Farsi adopted the Arabic script, but Farsi and Arabic are different languages, and Persian people are very different from Arab people, just like Turkic people. They speak Turkish. And they have their own culture. The Ottomans were their own people, their own culture, their own way of life. Yes, they're all Muslims in that sense. But to put them all together and say, oh, they're all the same, would be as ignorant as to say, oh, all Christians are the same. Really? The Eastern Orthodox Russians and the Roman Catholic Italian Catholics, and then the American Southern Baptists, and then the born-again American Evangelical Movement. Let's just say those four groups right there. Yes, they're all Christian in the sense that they all believe in the Trinity, and they believe that Jesus is the Son of God and the second person in the Godhead, and that God exists as like this divine triune unity thing, this triune. They're three distinct persons, but they exist as one essence or whatever it is, And they believe in the Bible, and they have crosses, and they go to they call their places of worship churches, all of that thing, you know. In that sense, yeah, they're all Christians. But if you really think that the worship service in a Roman Catholic church, a Baptist Southern church, a modern day American evangelical born again type church, like Billy Graham type place, and an Eastern Orthodox, like a Russian Orthodox church, if you're going to think all those worship services are going to be the same, or even generally close to the same, you've got another big surprising thing coming to you. Because nobody in the Russian Orthodox Church walks into their giant stadium of 50,000 worshipers and goes, "Hey everybody, how you all feeling today?" with their Bibles. "Let's talk about Jesus! Yeah! Jesus! And the troops, yeah, fuck yeah!" You know, I know they would say fuck yeah, but you know what I mean. You're not going to get the same kind of worship service. So of course they're different. So it's the same with the Islamic world. Of course they're vastly different. It's super ignorant to think that they're not, that there's not this great diversity in the Middle East. But the thing is, when it comes to the government of Israel and the way it works, if that was really true, that Israel was part of America, wouldn't that then mean that Israel's taxes would go to America? Now, of course, you have all the people that say, "Oh, all our taxes go to Israel," which is not true. With anybody that has half a brain and does even 2 minutes of research on Google will see that that's absolutely insane and a complete bullshit thing to believe. But if it were true that America is part of Israel is part of America, it should be the opposite. That should then mean that Israel's taxes and Israel's taxpayers, their hard-earned money should, like, the average Israeli, let's say, who is struggling to put food on the table, let's say the middle class or the lower class, and they're struggling to feed their families and whatever, right? I mean, I spent Shabbos, for example, one time with people who were telling me all about how, oh yeah, like my little brother's shirt, that used to be my shirt when I was a baby, because they all had hand-me-downs because they're struggling, you know? And, oh yeah, to think that those people, you know, that their hard-earned money that they have to give up for taxes, that they have to begrudgingly put in, and they're like, "Oh, well, all right, here's one more shekel for the government, one less shekel, you know, here's one more shekel for the government's coffers for the banks, and one less piece of bread, or one less cup of water, one less cup of juice for my fucking kids to eat and drink. Thanks for that." So that would have to mean that that would mean that those people's money that are doing that is then being stolen from them, from the government of Israel, to go to America to fund, I don't know, let's say, to filling in potholes in the middle of somewhere in Louisiana, whatever. But that's not how that works. Because it's not at all how that works. Because America and Israel have a partnership. America does stuff that benefits Israel exclusively. But then Israel does things that benefit what deals they have with America exclusively. If they were the same country, that wouldn't be the case. Also, America's government and Israel's government are completely different. America doesn't have a prime minister. If Israel was part of America, Israel would not have a prime minister. Israel would have a senator running it. It would be a governor. Yeah, it'd be a governor. Israel would have Well, it would have senators, I guess, to represent it in the Senate. But, I mean, as far as running Israel, instead of a prime minister or a president, Israel would have a governor. He would be the governor of the state of Israel, which would be effectively, in that scenario, the 51st state of the United States of America. But that's not how it is, because Israel has a prime minister, and they have their own political parties where they have to build coalitions. Each election cycle, they have a certain, I guess, amount of time or whatever to form a coalition with different parties to become effectively the ruling regime until the next election cycle, and then new people come. But if Israel was part of America, they wouldn't have that. They would only have Democrats and Republicans, neither of which exist in Israel. Only very recently did there become in Israel a party called the Democrats, and they have absolutely nothing to do with the Democratic Party of America. Ideologically, yeah, but formally, no. So, I mean, that doesn't even make any sense. Why would America have a separate form of government for one of its states that's completely different from all of the others? Also, if that was true, then you would also have to argue that America's Constitution and Bill of Rights and all of America's amendments would have to apply to Israel, right? Well, here's here's the reason why that doesn't work. Because they don't. First of all, Israel has no formal separation of church and state. It should, which is very messy and slippery, how you would work that out. That's a whole, like I said, that's a whole other kettle of stinky fish that we're not going to get into today. But if Israel is part of America, then Israel effectively could not, by definition, could not be a Jewish state. It could not be the state of the Jewish people. It couldn't be if it was part of America, because America has separation of church and state. And even though Jews are an ethnicity, true, they also have a religion that goes with that ethnicity. The way they're an ethno-religious group, which means they are an ethnic group, like genetically and indigenous, with common genetic ties and all of that kind of stuff, that have a common religion that ethnic group has followed throughout the centuries. That's been their religious beliefs. That's how that works. There's other ethno-religious groups out there. The Amish are an ethno-religious group, for example. There's a lot of ethno-religious groups in the Middle East, actually. The Druze are an even better example of the Amish. The Druze are an ethno-religious group. Their religion and their ethnicity are one and the same. In fact, unless you're born into the ethnicity, you can't follow the Druze religion. You can't convert. You're not allowed to. They don't accept conversions. Whoever were Druze at a certain point in their history, they were like, okay, that's it. No new people, other than birth rate, new babies, but no converts. Zoroastrians is the same way. You can't become a Zoroastrian. You can't convert. You're either born into the religion or you're not. Therefore, the ethnicity and the religion are the same. So it's not really such a weird, crazy, freakish thing for the idea of ethno-religious groups. So Judaism is not unique in that sense. Judaism is unique in the sense that it's the largest and most successful of the various ethno-religious groups due to the fact that Jews have lived for centuries in the Western world and have been exposed to all of the same advancements as the rest of the West. At least by nowadays standards, for sure. But still, nonetheless, even though it's an ethnicity, it's also a religion. And therefore, to be able to call Israel the Jewish state, which would then enshrine, by its very name and definition, would enshrine the Jewish faith of the faith of the people, of the ethnic people called the Jewish people, their religious belief, their faith, could not be enshrined into the national character or the law of the state, because it's part of the United States of America. And the United States of America does not have any recognition of official religion. It has separation between church and state. And therefore, it would be impossible for America, for Israel, to be part of America. Because if Israel is part of America, Israel could not be the Jewish state by definition. So that whole argument that he comes up with, well, Israel is like just part of America, is fucking retarded. And he has no idea what he's talking about. And that's the dumbest, fucking, most ignorant take. That shows that he doesn't know anything about Israel or America. And he doesn't. You know why? Because he's not even from Israel or so-called Palestine or America. He's from fucking Holland. Fuck off, bitch. Bro, go eat your fucking crumpets and put on your wooden plug shoes and go fuck off under a windmill and some green hills and speak your stupid fucking language. Yeah, whatever their weird fucked up language that they speak. Fuck off, bitch. You're Dutch. Fuck off. Fuck all the way off. You don't get to have an opinion about my country. You don't get to have an opinion about Israel. You don't get to have an opinion about America. Fuck off. Have an opinion about Amsterdam. Go concern yourself with that shit. You know? He did a video about when they had those riots, when the people came and beat up the Israelis that were visiting Holland for the football match. Of course, you know, he took it as that they were violent hooligans that were tearing down Palestinian flags, and that the people that fought them were just defending themselves. Really what actually happened, it turns out, was there were a group of fucking assholes, a bunch of fucking scum dirtbags going around tearing down Palestinian flags, you know, being all chauvinistic and nationalistic in the negative form of not the good form of nationalism, which is, you know, to honor and love your country and have loyalty to your country, but in the negative, where it's not just I love my country, but it's also, if you're not part of my country, fuck you, like, you know, that sort of nationalism. And yeah, there was a little bit of that, but that whether that set this off or what, because there is some evidence that this was planned in advance, but it broke out into Islamists, Islamic supremacists, taking to the street and beating up Jews. So even if it is true, it could be true that, I mean, it is true that the people tore down the flag. Yeah, there was a group of fucking asshole Israeli racist scumbags that were being a bunch of dicks, and they, you know what should have happened to them? They should have been arrested. They should have been put in prison, arrested by Dutch police, and then they should have been exiled and permanently banned from the UK for causing violence and all that. Yeah, I can say that. I can say that about my own people, about other fellow Jews. I can say that because they're being dirtbags. And when people are being dirtbags, you call them out for being fucking dirtbags. Because like I always say, again, we keep coming back to this. You have to give credit where credit is due. That is such a basic Jewish value. That is such a, it's called, I might be getting this wrong, but I think it's called Dan Lakabschluss. Where you give merit where merit is due. You give credit where credit is due. You know? And so, so yeah, I mean, just like I talk about the murder of Hind Rajab, that little 6-year-old Palestinian girl that the IDF murdered, and yeah, I will continue to say it, that I because I've looked at that case and I've really thought about it, and I came to the conclusion That's the only logical conclusion, that she was murdered for no reason by the IDF. And then a group of ambulance workers, paramedics came, finally, after hours and hours of her begging for help on the phone, came and tried to save her life, and Israel attacked them and killed them too, so that they couldn't help her. That was a despicable, disgusting war crime. The people that did that are murderers, and they should be in prison for the rest of their lives without the possibility of parole, because that's just fucking vile. And that is not who we are. As the Jewish people, as Israelis, I mean, I'm not an Israeli, but I'm saying, like, of the Jewish people, of the Israeli, that's not who the Israeli people are. Okay? And by the way, the Israeli people are not only Jews. There's Arab Israelis, and amongst them there's Muslim Arab Israelis, there's Christian Arab Israelis, like Yosef Haddad. He's a Christian Arab Israeli, and so yeah. So now that we've shown that his primary thing is about communism, okay, which for the left is not very surprising. That's why I no longer identify with the left, because it's been hijacked by radical communists and insane socialist extremists. Well, all socialism is really extreme. There's really no such thing as a moderate socialist. All socialism is pretty fucked up. But okay, so we've covered that, and then we've covered now we've covered the lie about Israel being part of America, and whatever. And now I want to address finally something that I always wondered about him that I now know the answer to, and this is another thing that people believe, and that is, does he think that Palestinians are actually a distinct group to themselves ethnically, like the other ethnic groups in the Middle East are? Like, so what I'm saying then, does he think that there's Arabs, Persians, Kurds, Jews, and then Palestinians and Armenians and Turks, etc. in the Middle East? Or does he acknowledge, or does he see Palestinians as Arabs? And that's what I wondered. Well, now I know the answer, because in the video, he attacked Mossab Hassan Youssef, who is the father, or the son, his father was one of the co-founders of Hamas. And he defected from Hamas, converted to Christianity, became an Arab Israeli Christian, and then became a spy for Israel, and he was able to prevent many terrorist attacks, suicide bombings, massacres, all kinds of things, because he had that inside info. And he was being a double agent for Israel and all that. But he obviously is Palestinian, and he identifies as Palestinian. Maybe not anymore, but nobody could question that at least at one point he eventually did. At one point in the past, beforehand, I don't know why I said eventually, that didn't make sense. He did. Fine. But Yosef Haddad, as far as I know, I might be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that Yosef Haddad does not identify as Palestinian, and never has identified as Palestinian, and has always identified as Arab Israeli. And he, in the video, he attacks him too and calls him a traitor. But if Palestinians in India Nile's point of view are their own distinct, unique ethnic group, then it really wouldn't matter that Yosef Haddad, who is an Israeli Arab Christian, does things with Israel or defends Israel. It wouldn't particularly matter to him. It wouldn't matter to him enough to label Yosef Haddad a traitor, unless he also considers Yosef Haddad, who himself identifies as an Arab Israeli, unless in denial identifies in denial's mind Yosef Haddad as actually being a Palestinian, unless in denial views Palestinians as being a type of Arabs. I hope you followed that, because I'm not going to repeat it. If Yosef Haddad, who identifies not as Palestinian, but as a Palestinian Arab, but as an Israeli Arab or Arab Israeli, is thought of as a traitor by a person who's talking about Palestinians who self-identifies as a Palestinian. To call somebody a traitor, by its very definition, means that you have to include that person to either still be, or at least at some point have been, in your camp, in your group. Otherwise, traitor would not be a term that you would use for them. But in denial identifies as Palestinian. Therefore, in denial, must consider Yosef Haddad as being a Palestinian. And he probably does so because Yosef Haddad identifies as an Arab Israeli, and he sees, and denial sees, and realizes the truth. And this is the actual reality, that Palestinians are a type of Arab. I know I said I wasn't going to repeat it, and I did. But you follow that? So therefore, he acknowledges that Palestinians are Arabs. This is huge. This really blows a major hole in this whole argument. Because if Palestinians are Arabs, that means they're not native to Palestine, because Arabs are native to Arabia. Just like Jews are native and indigenous to the so-called West Bank, actually which its real historical name is Judea and Samaria. So we've blown the lid off of that. So we've shown that his main motivations is he's a freaking communist. Okay? Secondly, we've identified that he believes this lie about Israel being part of America. Okay? And now we've blown the lid off of his entire argument about the Palestinians and their indigenous nature to the land, because he admits that Palestinians are Arabs, and we know by history that Arabs are native to Arabia, not Israel. So we've taken apart all three of his big arguments, all three main factors of his, which really, not just in the video, but really represent in general. Like I said, it's not about this one specific guy on YouTube, but it's about these ideas in general and how they infect people. Now, I did say kind of at the beginning I wanted to make this video about Jewish traitors, and so far I've made this all about this guy's opinions. What does that have to do with Jewish traitors? So I think I've actually done enough videos kind of analyzing the psychology and the inner working of self-hating Jews that I actually don't think a separate video about that is necessary. But I do want to tie that into this. And I want to say that one of the big reasons that you have self-hating Jews, two big reasons actually, is, and very often you get the thing that, one, they're usually Jews that are not very Jewishly educated. Most of the time, these people know very little about Judaism. Very little. Like, they might know, like, how to say Shema. They might light Hanukkah candles. And they may be at a bar mitzvah. Maybe. But that's about their extent of their Jewish knowledge. Because it's not important to them because they weren't brought up in it. They weren't raised to believe in it like it mattered. It wasn't part of their life. It had no major significance to them. It wasn't like a big deal to them. So why should it matter, you know? If you weren't raised like with something being a big deal to you, why would it matter to you? And so, excuse me. So, excuse me. If you're not raised in it, you know, then you're not really gonna really have much of an interest in knowing how to answer its critics, and you know, you don't identify with it strongly, so it really doesn't matter very much to you. So you don't really look much into it, and you don't really think about it or learn much about it. You probably just think it's boring and don't even care about it. I mean, if you were raised with that form of Judaism, like, you wouldn't care about it really very much. And so because these people lack that kind of knowledge and that kind of interest even in acquiring the knowledge, they become susceptible to all of this bullshit and all of the lies of our enemies, because their minds are, they have no defenses against these arguments because they don't know anything. Like, if somebody comes up to them and they say Israel is actually just a puppet state. It's really actually just part of America, and it was a creation of America, and Israel and America are really just the exact same thing. They're really part of the same thing, and America is really just serving on the interests of Israel in the Middle East. If you've never been to Israel, if you've never read about the history, if your only Jewish knowledge is that you know to say Shema Yisrael, and you had a little bar mitzvah, and you gefilte fish or whatever, and that's the extent of your Judaism, how are you going to answer that? How are you going to answer that argument? How are you going to respond to that? How are you going to respond to that? How are you going to respond when anti-Semites get up in your face and they get right up in your grill and they accuse you and they say these things and they say, Israel's a colonial state, it's racist, it's apartheid, it's Jewish supremacy, you know, it's genocide, you know, like, if all of your Jewish knowledge is Shema Yisrael, you know, oh, I had a little bar mitzvah, gefilte fish is nice. If that's all your Judaism, how are you going to answer these people? How are you going to respond? How are you going to, what's your argument going to be against that? You don't have one. They don't have one. They're naked. They're completely defenseless. They're completely, I mean, I'm not even trying to come down on them saying, like, yeah, they're so stupid, they don't have any arguments. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it hurts me. It doesn't anger me. It hurts me to see Jews who know nothing about Judaism. I mean, first of all, I want them to know about Judaism because I love Judaism. It's my whole being is being Jewish and being a Jew. That's the way I was raised. I was raised, my whole culture, my whole life, my whole everything is being Jewish. You know, I love it. It's my very essence. And so, of course, I want Jews to come close to their heritage and to learn about it and to see the beauty and the power, the spiritual power and the joy and the meaning and everything in Judaism. Yeah, all that stuff's true. But not even that, just to defend themselves against the arguments of our enemies. I mean, it breaks my heart that they're out there like totally sitting ducks. They're totally sitting ducks just someone just pick them off, you know? I mean, ideologically, well, I mean, yes, we know physically too because of all the terrorist attacks, but I mean, even ideologically, right? And they're ripe for the they're ripe for getting bullied and have their minds hijacked by this bullshit. And then you have shit like anti-Zionist Jews. That's how you get this. That's how this cancer, this rot, this sickness, this disgusting, vile garbage gets into their brains and infects them because they have no defense against it. They have no immune. It's like sending somebody with no measles vaccine into a freaking let's say a colony of people infected with measles. Of course they're gonna get measles. They have no immunization. Of course these people are going to become Jewish anti-Zionists, which basically you may as well just call yourself a Jewish Nazi because anti-Zionist and being a Nazi are virtually the same thing. In definition and ideologically, if you want to talk about like the beliefs and the actual politics, yes, it is not technically true that anti-Zionism and Nazism are literally the exact same ideology. They're different. But they're so closely related in so many ways that they become one and the same thing. But when it comes to, for all practical purposes, I mean, talking about not the theoretical definitions, academic, woo-woo, whatever, but I mean, like, the real world lived experience, the way people actually think, the way people actually talk and interact in the real world with each other. In that sense, they're virtually, they're anti-Zionism and Nazism are virtually the same thing. They have all the same fans. They have all the same backers, all the same. And let me tell you something. If you are Jewish, if you are one of these Jewish anti-Zionist people, let me tell you something. And this is interesting because this actually ties in, and I think this is a great way to end off this video. This actually ties in with another point. I wasn't even going to make this point. It just came to me. Hashem just put this in my heart. Thank you, Tati. Thank you, Lord, Father in heaven. Thank you for helping me to think of this. He said that one of the key psychological reasons that he believes that these Palestinians betray their people, like Yosef Haddad, and who doesn't identify as Palestinian, but as Israeli Arab, and Yosef Mossab Hassan Yosef, or Mossab Hassan Yosef, yeah. Or maybe it's Mossab Yosef Hassan. I think it's Mossab Yosef Hassan. I think I'm getting it backwards. So, I was gonna say with he says that one of the main reasons that he believes that they do it is because he thinks, well, he says I'm saying this is the way he put it, that he said that they think that they're going to be spared, basically, that they're going to be, that if they kiss up and kiss ass enough to the Israelis and to the Zionists, that they won't be mistreated, that they won't be tossed aside, like the average Palestinian, that they'll have a place of honor, that they'll be thought of as an equal, and will not have to face the oppression that other Palestinians have to face at the hands of the dreaded Zionists. So basically he's saying like he's basically calling them uncle. He's basically calling them Uncle Abdullahs or I'd say Uncle Mahmouds. You see what I'm saying? You know, like Uncle Tom, like the term that they use for black people, and it's the idea of a black person who identifies with the white supremacists, with the slaver, with his his oppressors, you know, or what they used to call, and I'm not going to use the word because YouTube will come and fuck me in the ass forever till the end of time. So I'm not going to use the term, but there was a term back then. There was the idea of the field N word and the house N word. The idea, this was actually one of my big heroes, Malcolm X, talked about this. He explained it, and not like in a scene in the movie, in real life. This is a scene in the movie, yes, but this did happen in real life. He said, he goes, the difference between me and someone like Martin Luther King Jr. is Martin Luther King, he's a house N-word. He's like the N-word that he was all brought up prim and proper, and he wears a suit, and he goes to church, and, you know, and you know, he acts respectable, and, you know, he bows the knee. Oh, yes, Mr. White Man. Yes, Mr. White Man. Yes, 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 Master. Yes. He's the house N-word. He goes, but someone like me, Malcolm X was saying, he goes, I grew up poor. I grew up, you know, under being my family. My father was murdered by the KKK. You know, he goes, I was a field N-word. I didn't get all the nice fancy wrapping and pretty bows and you know, sunshine and lollipops and, you know, all the big what's the word, consolation prizes, you know, that's that someone like Martin Luther King Jr. did, and so what ND Nile is basically saying is he's saying that people like Yosef Haddad and Mossab Yosef Hassan are they're they're bought and paid, you know. Oh, but the thing is, whether I should have finished it. Malcolm X's point was, but whether you're the house N-word or the field N-word, either way, at the end of the day, to the white man's mind, in the white man's consciousness, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're still an N-word. That's the way he explained it. He says it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you try to be equal to them. Even if you strive for it, it will never happen because they will never see you as equal. No matter how good you are, no matter how much you kiss up, they will always see you as N-word, as lesser, as never ever going to be equal or on the same level in any way as them. And so that he's saying that that's the mistake that these people are making, is that the Zionists will never see them on the same level as other Israelis, as Jewish Israelis, because in their mind, oh, they're just a bunch of just dirty Arabs, and you know, all the love and the care and the honorifics that they bestow upon them, because you know, I mean, Yosef Haddad and Moshe Hassan Yosef are now Israelis, and they're patriotic and they love their country. And so he's saying all those accolades and all those, you know, awards and stuff that Israel gives them, they're not doing it because they actually care about them or love them or respect them. They're just doing it because they're just puppets. They're just stooges for Israel. And the day that they no longer are useful as puppets for Israel, they're just forget it, no more. They're gone. Sweep them into the bin of, you know, into the trash bin. They're not important. And so it's funny. It's so funny because when it comes to dealing with these anti-Semites, like these, or I hate that term, by the way. Please, can we get rid of that term, anti-Semite? Can we just make that like term go away, or just become like an old-timey term that nobody uses? Because it's so stupid. It's, first of all, one of the dumbest things about it is it gives our enemies an excuse. Because you hear this shit all the time. I'm an Arab. I'm also a Semite. Okay, first of all, nobody is a Semite because Semites don't exist. Semite comes from an old world racist category that was used that was part of colonialism. Actually, it was a part of racist white European colonialism to racialize different groups of humanity. And Semite was a term that they used to lump in basically all of the people of Levantine descent, people from the Levant. The Levant being all of the current state of Israel, Lebanon, I think parts of western Iraq and southern Syria. That whole area is called the Levant historically, and Palestinians, which don't exist because there's no such thing, because they're just Arabs, are Levantine Arabs. They're Arabs who are native to the Levantine area. But of course, I mean, they're not really native ultimately if they're Arabs because they're from Arabia. So which means that they actually are the descendants of Arab colonialists who took over the Levant and Arabized it and Islamicized it. But we won't get into. Let's not get into that right now. But that's technically what Palestinians are. And so yes. So that's why I don't like that I don't like the term anti-Semite. It's such a stupid term. Plus, in a weird way, our enemies have taken it to use it against us. Because every time we point out something's anti-Semitic, they then go, oh, see, there they go. They say that about anybody that criticizes them. Anti-Semitic. So they've taken the very term used to describe their hatred against us, and they've weaponized the term against us. See, that's another reason why I hate the term. Because as soon as the word comes out of people's mouths, automatically that's the reaction. Oh, here we go. Everything's anti-Semitic. So can we stop using that and just use plain, obvious, simple, honest language and just call it Jew hatred and just call them Jew haters, because that's what it is. That's what it is. It's Jew hatred. It's hatred of Jews. They're Jew haters. That's what it is. Let's get rid of that stupid term anti-Semitism once and for all. Let's get rid of it. It's stupid. It's a stupid term. But the thing is, with Jew haters, every accusation that they come up with against us, if you actually look at it historically and objectively, at history from an objective standpoint, not taking a side, and you line the two things up side by side, you start to realize every one of their accusations, oddly enough, is a confession. It's so interesting how that works. Because, for example, they accuse us, they call Israel, our homeland as Jews, and they call Israel a genocide. They accuse Israel of genocide, which is interesting, considering that Jew haters all uniformly want to genocide the Jews. They accuse us of genocide, but they're the ones that want to genocide us, and they don't even, it's not like you have to, like, really stretch, like, to really look for it. No, they say it, obviously, and outright. Like, for example, if they try and tell you, oh, it's just anti-Zionism, it's not anti-Semitism, it's not against Jews, it's against Zionism. Here's how you can tell if they really mean that, which they usually don't, or if that's all bullshit. How comfortable then, if that's really true, how comfortable would they be being part of a pro-Palestine rally where people chant Chaybar Chaybar al Yehud? Do you know what Chaybar Chaybar al Yehud means? It refers to the town of Chaybar, which was a Jewish semi-independent kingdom in Arabia that Muhammad and his forces massacred because he came and he said, I am the prophet of God, of Allah, come out here and show me honor. And they said, we're sorry, but it is our Sabbath, and by the law of our Sabbath we cannot leave the boundary of our city, it's part of our religion, we cannot do it. In fact, I think they even said, at the end of the Sabbath, we'll be more than happy to welcome you in and anything you want. But right now, until the end of our Sabbath, we're sorry, we can't come out. And so, what did he do? He massacred the whole place. All of the men were beheaded. All of the women were and children were taken as either raped and killed, or were raped and taken as slaves. And so that when they chant Chaybar Chaybar al Yehud, they're saying, remember what we did, the Muslims, Muhammad's people, did to the Jews of Chaybar. And then, and that's another thing. All the time, in English, they'll say, we're against the Zionists. We hate the Zionists. Our enemies are the Zionists. We're fighting the Zionists. But then, when you listen to them in Arabic, do they say Zioni, Zionist? No. They always say Yehud, Jew. They always say Yehud. They never say Zioni. If you listen to the Arabic, as they're speaking Arabic, listen for it. You will never hear them say Zioni. You will always hear them say Yehud, which means Jew. Their enemies are the Jews, and the Jewish people. It is not about Zionism. Because Zionism and Judaism being two separate things is a false construct in the first place. Because Zionism, all that Zionism at its core is the belief that the Jewish people have a right politically, religiously, and historically to self-determination in their historic homeland. That's what Zionism is. And all Zionism is it's the political manifestation of the historic, cultural, and religious love of the Jewish people for their homeland, which they have kept intact for 3,500 years, has been intact. Even when they were living in exile for thousands of years in Europe, 3 times a day, they still prayed 3 times a day in their prayers every single day, 4 to 5 times on special occasions like holidays. They would always mention if you look at Jewish prayers, they mention over and over and over and over again the dream of returning to the land of Israel. This whole notion that Judaism and Zionism are two separate things is absolutely absurd and complete and total bullshit. And it makes no fucking sense. But it's funny because what he said about the Yosef Haddad and Yosef Hassan, what he said about them is really true of these anti-Zionist Jews, of these self-hating Jews, a lot of them, is that they think that if they join up with our enemies, that when our enemies win, inevitably, because we're the minority, that they'll be good to them. They'll see them as the good Jews. Yeah. We'll massacre and enslave and rape and murder and exterminate all of the 90%, 98%. By the way, when people say, I don't hate Jews, I just hate Zionists. Well, most Jews today, 98% of Jews around the world identify as Zionists. So, you do hate most Jews. You do hate Jews. So, I don't hate Jews, I just hate Zionists. Well, 98% of Jews are Zionists. So, you do hate most Jews. Okay. So, but that's what that's saying is they're saying that let's say 98% of Jews who are Zionists, let's say they're all killed. Let's say finally that somehow the Arabs and the whoever, the neo-Nazis, the fascists, whatever in Europe, they finally perfectly unite and they just go, we're going to do another, God forbid, we're going to do another Holocaust and we're going to get it right this time. And they do it and it happens, let's say, and they're successful. And 98% of the Jews, of the Zionists, of the Jews who are Zionists, who identify as Zionists, they wipe them out and they're all dead. And they kill them all. Extermination completely. Not a single one of them survive. They're all gone off the face of the earth. These idiots, these people, think that they'll go, oh, but we won't hurt those other 2% out of the 98%. Those last 2%, those were the good Jews. They were on our side. They were they were against the Zionists. We won't harm them. We'll leave them be. They'll be fine. And let's say even that they don't identify as Jews even. Let's say they're completely secular and they don't follow Judaism. They don't even consider themselves Jews, maybe even. But at the end of the day, they're still gonna get fucked. They're still either going to get killed, or even if they do, let's say, convert to Islam, they're still going to be treated as less than. They're never going to be equal. Even when Jews have converted to Christianity and Islam as a bid to earn fair, equal treatment in societies, it's never worked. They've always, even then, even after converting, they're still, after conversion, okay, sure, they're spared the sword, but they're not spared persecution. They're not. You really think that someone that hates Jews, really hates Jews, and then a Jew converts to Christianity, but let's say this person's a super passionately religious Muslim, or super passionately religious Eastern Orthodox, because most of the Eastern Orthodox Church is extremely hateful of Jews, so filled with Jew hatred. So yeah, let's say you have someone like that, like a really devout Russian Orthodox, a really devout, Sunni Muslim, right? And you have a Jew, and they hate Jews. They fucking hate them. They meet a Jew, they would kill him. If a Jew was in this room right now, nothing could stop me from friggin' murking the shit out of him. Let's say that same Jew, then, let's say that they were behind a wall, or behind iron bars, right? And they said, if these iron bars weren't here, if I were able to get past them somehow, that Jew on the other side right there, that fucking Jew, oh God, I would just rip him to shreds. Okay, so then let's say They go home, they go to sleep, they come back the next day to the iron bars, and that Jew on the other side, the exact same one from the day that they hated with all their heart, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, overnight, is now a Muslim. Fully. I mean, and not even like, oh, they're just like fake. No, like they really, in their heart of heart, like not even they're pretending, like they've actually become convinced of the truth, or what they feel is the truth of Islam. And they decided to give up their Judaism or their Christianity, or or let's say it's talking about an Eastern Orthodox Jew hater. They've decided to completely give up their Judaism 100% and fully identify as a passionate Eastern Orthodox Christian. And they want to. They love it. Their heart is in it. They feel like they're really part of it. Do you really think that person who was the rabid, vicious, foaming at the mouth Jew hater the day before, just like that, they're all of a sudden, all of a sudden, come on over, you're my best friend. Come, eat with my family. You're one of us now. We're brethren. Oh, I love you. Yeah. Do you really think that's going to happen? Really? Within Islam, the Sunni and the Shia kill each other. They hate each other. They've been doing it for centuries. They can't even get along with each other. Do you really think that they're going to get along with you? And you go, well, I'll just become a Muslim. They don't even like other Muslims. What makes you think that they're going to like you? It's the same thing. So just like it's the same. Just like he's saying, well, they're doing it, but that's because they're saying that they'll never see them as equals, which is not true, because in Israel, they do see Arab Israelis as equals. Now, yes, there are the racists, yes, but the general drive of the Israeli psyche and written into Israeli law is not that we should delineate and see them as less than. No, in Israel, if you're Israeli and you're a citizen, you're Israeli and you're a citizen. For all practical purposes. Other assholes, yes. But the law is the law. Israelis are Israelis. Okay? And so it's not true what he's saying, that we see them as less than, and that we'll never see them as equal. But with the Palestinians and the Muslims in the Islamic world, they do see us as less than, and in the Jew hating world of the Eastern Orthodox, like people anti-Semites and Jew haters in the West that are not motivated by Islam, but are motivated by neo-Nazism, like people like Nick Fuentes and people like Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, people like them, these are not Muslims. They don't hate Jews because of Muslim Islamic reasons. They hate Jews for Jew hating reasons, just like Muslims really hate Jews for Jew hating reasons, not for Muslim reasons. And in that sense, they're the same, and that's where they agree. Which is really weird, because you would think that people who are Islamic supremacists, who hate gay people and want to throw gay people off of rooftops, why would they align with the woke crowd who believe in gay rights and full LGBT equality and non-binary and all of that sort of stuff? That whole thing, why would they align? That doesn't make any sense. They're so opposed to each other. You would think they have nothing to do with each other. And the thing is, the thing with that is that, I had a point and I lost it. Yes. That's the point. The point is that they don't see them as equal to them, the Islamists. They're only aligned with them as far as they're going to be useful to them. to pushing their Islamo supremacist agenda. Once they've fulfilled that and they have their power, they're going to get rid of them too. They're going to kill them as well. And so I'm saying that you have the same situation, just like with these anti-Zionist Jews who think, well, if I stand with Hamas and I join with our enemies, maybe they'll say I'm one of the good Jews and they won't hurt me. Well, it's the same thing. That's the same idiocy and the same flawed thinking as the people on the left who go out and chant in support of Hamas. And say things like, Hamas aren't terrorists, they're a resistance group, they're a political movement or whatever, you know? It's the same thing. They're not going to spare you. It doesn't matter what you do. They're going to hate you. They're never going to accept you as equal. And the proof, you could say this all day long, but where's the proof? Where's the proof in the pie? Where's the proof in the pudding? I'll tell you where the proof in the pudding is. And by the way, I fucking love pudding. That shit's delicious. And if you think differently, fuck you. No, I'm kidding. No. Well, no. Not really fuck you, but I do love pudding. That shit is awesome. You know how I know there's a God and that God is good? Chocolate pudding. Anyway. The proof in the pudding of what I'm saying about this is to look at the two different societies. Look at Muslim majority nations, particularly ones that are run by Sharia law. Look at how they operate. Do you see freedom, acceptance, diversity for all groups? Do you see democracy? Do you see LGBT rights? Do you see women's rights? Do you see that in most Muslim majority countries? No. Just now, some of those countries are just barely getting over the hump and starting to modernize and become more Western and more secular and more democratic. But let's not forget that it was only until very recently women were not even allowed to drive cars in Saudi Arabia. Okay. But let's look at Israel. Or let's even look at somewhere like Gaza, which is run by Sharia law, where they kill people for being gay. And they tie gay people, if they catch you if you're gay, they tie your hands behind your back, blindfold you, and push you off a roof and kill you. In fact, there was a guy who was like a general. He was like a high-ranking member of Hamas who was gay and openly gay. And most Palestinians' attitude towards him was, we really don't like the whole gay thing, but he is kind of one of our freedom fighters. So he's kind of one of our guys. So we don't really like the whole gay thing, but, we'll begrudgingly, accept it because he's one of our guys. Well, remember that little rat, that little turd, that little piece of subhuman excrement, Yahya Sinwar? Well, he didn't take too kindly of this, and he went, what? A gay man, an openly gay man? Not my Hamas. Like these fucking people, not my president, not my Hamas. Hell no. So what did he do? Well, at one point, that guy was arrested because he was a terrorist. And Yahya Sinwar met him in prison, and he strangled him to death. Because we can't have that in Hamas. We can't have gay people. In fact, one of the biggest reasons why Hamas hates Israel is because Israel accepts LGBT people. Which is really funny that this guy in denial, who's like this big swishy openly gay guy, wants to run cover for Hamas when they would murder him if he was in Gaza. Again, another case of, oh well, if I'm on their side, maybe they won't hurt me. So we see that it's actually far more, that's actually far more true the other way around. And the proof in the pudding is that Israel is a modern, secular, democratic society where gay people have equal rights. Not full. I admit, like, for example, gay marriage is not legal in Israel, and that is wrong, and that's still an issue, and that's something that needs to be addressed. Absolutely. But in Israel, it's illegal to kill someone for being gay. Whereas in most Muslim countries, not only is it not illegal, it's the law that you have to kill someone for being gay because it's against Islam. So, at the end of the day, these people, these self-hating Jews, these traitors, they think that they're going to get away and that they're going to save their own skin. They're not. They're just not. This video has gone on so long. This might be my longest video ever. But anyway, I'm going to wrap up because I want to go and relax and enjoy the rest of my Shabbos. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. I love you all. Until the next one. Bye-bye, guys. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.